Alright, hello and welcome back after something of an extended break to our playthrough of Escape Velocity Nova. So, you may be asking, why are you talking about taking a break now, as you had one other video come up right before this one? Well, suffice to say, there was one left in the backlog that I had neglected to post, so you got that one before this one, but that was recorded at this point, I think about a month and a half ago. So I apologize for my sudden absence, but there's been some personal stuff going on and it was unavoidable. But we're back and we are in a good position to finish up the Polaris campaign. And without further ado, that's exactly what we're going to do. We are getting very close to the end now. As you sit, sipping your second drink, you cannot help smiling when you sense the approach of not only Dectacar, but also your old traveling companions, Miss Denton and Drengar. When they enter the room, you subtly direct their attention in your direction, and they make their way over. You greet both your friends with a warm smile and handshake before thanking Dectacar for bringing them along. I had nothing to do with it, Dectacar smiles, gently shaking his head. Young Drengar here sensed the disturbance you caused earlier at the docks and insisted on seeing you. You laugh and thank him anyway. Anyway, before you get too carried away reminiscing about old times, Dectacar continues more seriously. We need your help. We need someone to get the attention of the Dectacar elders on Rimmerta. But because of the threat of invasion, we can't spare any house warriors. Can you help us out? But of course we can. We're a professional courier, after all. All you have to do, he explains quietly, is go to Rimmerta in the Pimmon system and explain to them that the elders of the Heron House wish for one of them to witness events of interest to the ruling council. They will send at least one Dectacar with you, and then you will take him or her to the Moash system to witness whatever is there. Once you have done that, return here to pick me up. We will journey to Aurora to confront the first family over their actions. Ory'Hara, you have the thanks of the Heron House, Dectacar states formally as he stands up to leave. Your name will not soon be forgotten. I will leave you now to spend time with your battle brothers. You spend the rest of the afternoon chatting and laughing with both the young Polarans, who have become far more animated for their contact with the Auroran culture. Even the reverence they feel for you as Ory'Hara has been muted down to mere respect, and for the first time in many months, you enjoy yourself. Alright, so we're kind of parallel to the Auroran storyline right now, where they are just in the process of deposing the Moash house, and that is just the way we like it. So I think we have to do this for the Aurorans, and then there's a short thing we have to do for the Federation, and then we should be in the endgame. Without pausing to think, you hold the 10 young warriors itching to attack you in place, with weaves thick enough to support the mighty tower you have landed on, and you start up the stairs you know will lead you to the Dectacar elders. Before long, you are standing before a table headed by Dunacht, who you remember from when you visited here with Drengar and Miss Denton in tow. Ory'Hara would not interrupt us so unless the matter were urgent, Dunacht says, mostly to soothe the rumblings of discontent at your sudden appearance. His honor is impeccable, and we will hear whatever he has to say. You quickly recite the formula given to you by Dectacar, including the part about being of interest to the ruling council, at which point everyone in the room starts to pay attention. If the elders of Heron House want us to witness something of importance to the ruling council, Dunacht replies thoughtfully, I would see it for myself. Wait for me in the bar. I'll meet you there in an hour. So we don't have the, oh, what was the guy's name in the Auroran campaign? Hune. We don't have a relationship with Hune, the Dectacar, so instead we get to, have Dunacht be the important story character. You sense Dunacht's keen intellect approaching, and you immediately stand and walk out of the bar and move to meet him on the way back to your ship. Why didn't you wait for me, he asks, and you sense that he is mildly annoyed. You answer that you sensed him coming and decide to meet him on the way to save a little time. I apologize for ever doubting your motives, he breathes sincerely, and you wave it away, telling him you don't mind. You quickly go through your pre-flight checklist, aware of Dunacht's eyes widening every time you use your abilities to flick switches and push buttons without moving from your seat in the command chair. Indeed, they probably don't get many telepaths in Auroran space. You know, we could actually probably just use our multi-jump organ instead of jumping back to systems with hypergates, and so we're going to do exactly that. We can do 10 jumps in one go. That should be more than sufficient to get us to Heron House. So that's what we're going to do. This is where it told us to go, isn't it? Oh, it probably wants us to go to the Moash system to witness that event. Silly me. It is always interesting when they give you more than one objective check or objective arrow. You would think that through reading the instructions I know what they say, but you never know. Unsurprisingly, there are rage gunboats in this system. Thankfully, just on their own, our Manta are pretty terrifying. Kind of wasting Polaris torpedoes on light interceptors, but I don't really care. It's not like we can't afford more. Oops. Getting a little bit caught out here. Again, it's the old crutch of I'm so used to playing the Auroran campaign at this point, I just think I have so much hull to work with, and I don't. But regardless. So you may recall in the little blurb on the vignette of the Scarab, it talks about it taking on entire fleets on its own. This is, I think, what they meant. That being said, this is no excuse for being careless. A suitable amount of railguns will still cause us a little bit of a headache, but there we go. We have dealt with the entirety of the Moash fleet with their Bureau allies. And surprisingly, our combat rating is still only dangerous, despite that little ordeal. Not yet up to deadly. Oh, I suppose that was the, observe the Bureau forces. Well, I didn't so much observe them as I did completely decimate them, but I think that's just gravy. Let's touch down on Heron. Alright. As soon as you land, you are met by a small battle group of warriors, obviously prepared to repel any sneak attacks by Moash warriors. As soon as they see you, they quickly back off, giving you a respectful amount of space. I see that young Dectacar warriors aren't the only group of people you have frightened into leaving you alone, Denacht chuckles. Although I can imagine that the eagerness with which young warriors these days try to gain renown could quickly become very tiresome for one of your abilities. When you reach the council chambers, you gain the attention of every person in the room with a subtle weave. Have you seen something of interest to the ruling council? Asked Dectacar a little obliquely. What I have seen is a first family that has treacherously and dishonorably allied itself with our most hated enemies, Denacht confirms grimly, in a greedy attempt to gain nothing more than mere power. Alright, there's no honor in that. Do not worry, he continues, holding up his hands to forestall the questions of the Heron elders. The forms have been followed, and what I have seen has not been contaminated by either your views or those of Ory'Hara. You can be assured that my word will be as law before the ruling council. Nobody can doubt its veracity. To keep it that way, he again forestalls any questions with an upraised hand. I would ask that you say little now, so that no challenge of any sort can be made on the integrity of my word. We have come for Dectacar because he may be needed to take part in a meeting of the Council of Thurakirs. You raise your eyebrows at the satisfied reaction of the Heron elders to Denacht's last statement. If the first family has so disgraced itself that it has been removed from power, Dectacar explains in a low voice, the Council of Thurakirs decides on who will be the next first family. Meet me in the bar in 10 minutes. I'll be ready to go then. Alright. As you sit chatting with Denacht, you sense the businesslike approach of Dectacar. You surprise Denacht by predicting the exact time the Heron Thurakir will enter the bar. Your abilities are truly amazing, Denacht marvels after Dectacar joins the two of you. Not even Dectacar here, who is widely acknowledged as the greatest Auroran martial artist in history, could sense such things. See, I was under the impression that guy who hangs out on the asteroid in the far-flung reaches of Auroran space was supposedly the best Auroran martial artist. Or maybe, Eamon Flanagan, but whatever. That is not terribly surprising, Dectacar explains quietly. Ory'Hara is the preeminent warrior in the universe. He has not only defeated myself, but also Lyral, the most talented Velos warrior in recent centuries, and has fought to a standstill the almost godlike intelligence that now inhabits what used to be Velos space in the galactic northwest. I may not be as talented as yourself, Dectacar smiles at your mild surprise, but I am not without my own abilities, and I am probably the most widely traveled person in the galaxy, with the possible exception of yourself and my battle brother Arkandar, which is Eamon Flanagan. You may think he has only a peripheral role in all the recent goings-on in the galaxy, Dectacar warns Denacht. But he has not. More than that, anybody with the skill necessary to intuitively observe the weaves of life has felt the disturbances he has made to the fabric of the universe on the odd occasion when he has unleashed his power, and it is frightening. His abilities approach the limitless. Yeah, it's great when you talk about me, the limitless savior, like I'm not here. Is that true? Asked Denacht. Could you say, I don't know, destroy a world, for instance? You sit thinking for a moment, and you realize that if you really wanted to, you probably could. You shrug and nod non-committally. By the gods, Denacht swears. Well, I'm glad we have you on our side. You smile wanly, wishing that Dectacar hadn't been so forthcoming about your abilities. You stand, suggesting that it is time to get moving. Both Denacht and Dectacar sense your mood and nod in agreement. See, it'd be great if we could actually, destroy worlds with our abilities, because that means it would make conquering planets way easier. You just blow up a moon, and they decide that it's probably not worth fighting. Speaking of not worth fighting, let's just land. Upon landing, the three of you make your way to the chambers of the ruling council. As you walk up to the door that opens into the chambers themselves, you sense the hostile intentions of 20 young warriors who leap out at the three of you in an ambush. Having long since merged with the universe, you launch into a series of brutally graceful moves that end with the bloody deaths of all your attackers. You quickly put together weaves thick enough to lift the remains, and you mentally will the door open, calmly walking in and dumping the bodies at the feet of the 3 Moash representatives and the Emperor, who all look momentarily shaken. This might be the only time you actually ever see or mention the Emperor of the Auroran Empire. What is the meaning of this? Blurts the Emperor through his surprise. It is another proof of the levels to which the Moash house has sunk, replies Denacht stonily. My word is as law, and I have seen with my own eyes the ships of our most hated enemy, the Bureau, in your own home system, where alongside your own ships they attacked us. All the forms have been observed, Denacht submits grimly. My word is uncontaminated, and I call to account the Moash house for treachery and deceit, and I call for the Council of Thurakirs to be convened. You can't do that. You need a full vote of the Council first, sneers one of the Moash representatives. I move that the Moash be struck from the position of First Family, and that the Council of Thurakirs be convened, drawls one of the Dectacar representatives, nodding in acknowledgments of Denacht's suggestions. Votes against? The hands of the Emperor and the first 3 Moash representatives go up, their faces going white when they receive no support. 4? Asks the same member, and everyone else raises his or her hand. The motion is passed. This council is dissolved pending the decision of the Thurakirs Council. As one, all the representatives, barring those from the Moash house, get up and leave. Meet me in the bar, whispers Denacht, and I'll explain what happens next. Alright. Very orderly political coup. After an hour observing Denacht's movements to different parts of the arcology, he finally turns towards the bar and his meeting with you. Sorry for taking so long, Ory'Hara. Denacht apologizes as he sits down. But as you can understand, I had a number of things I had to take care of. You waved away, telling him that you don't mind. I guess you want to know what's going on, he asks mildly, and you nod calmly. The Emperor, his advisors, and the 3 representatives of the Moash house have been sealed in the throne room, which will never be opened again as long as the Auroran Empire survives. That is their punishment for their treachery, and as they starve over the coming weeks, they will have plenty of time to think about their misdeeds. You are a little surprised at the severity of the sentence, but one look at Denacht's face tells you that he has no doubts about the suitability of their punishment. In a fortnight, the Thurakir Council will meet, he continues grimly, and they will decide on who will become the new First Family. Although I don't want to preempt their decision, I'll be surprised if the Heron House doesn't assume that responsibility. In the meantime, he says quietly, I've spoken with the representatives of all the houses, except obviously the Moash house, and they have all agreed in principle to opening diplomatic relations with the Polaris. Of course, this still has to be agreed to by the Polaris, and has to be ratified by the full council when it next meets. But I would like you to pass on the offer. And one last thing, he says, looking you straight in the eye. There will be a great many songs written and sung about the events of this day. I swear to you on my honor, I'll make sure that your name is mentioned first in all of them, Ory'Hara. As he walks away, you realize that his last statement was no idle honor, and that he meant every word. The Aurorans, as I think I've mentioned before, remind me a lot of the Klingons from Star Trek. They're all about honor and song and tradition. And, you know, they have an empire composed of competing families. Actually, they're almost entirely like the Klingons now that I think about it, except they're not aliens. But no matter, though. Klingons or not, they are probably one of the most interesting factions, in my opinion. It appears we are still being attacked by the Moash, who have not gotten the hint that they are deep in Federation, Polaris, Auroran Rebellion space. Of course. Tell ya. Sometimes I don't know what I'm saying. But either way, they are no match for our superior technology. Not that they're not getting close. Jeez. I really do need to beef up this ship. It's kind of sad. Although I must say, the Polaris weapons don't exactly jive with my preferred playstyle. As you meditate to pass the time in your many hours in hyperspace, you start to occasionally feel a desire to completely merge with the universe. As you have only completely immersed yourself into the universe once, and were nearly driven insane by it, you resist the temptation, but you cannot help feeling that it will not be long before you are forced to do it again. As you dock on the enormous ring around Kalari, you sense that the entire council is waiting to greet you, and you suddenly understand that even these ancient and wise men and women have begun to succumb to the awe surrounding the mystique of your skills. Never before have you taken so long to complete your post-flight routine. You do everything you can think of to put off having to face the people who are so impressed by your abilities they can no longer recognize your humanity. But you can only avoid it for so long, and soon you are ready to exit your ship. Welcome back, Ory'Hara, smiles a healthy-looking Bisandrea. We understand that you have an offer for us. You quickly summarize the events of your sojourn into Auroran space, ending with Denok's tentative offer to open diplomatic relations. You'll be happy to know, Bisandrea informs you after listening to your report, that the Heron House will be the new first family after all of the appropriate rites and ceremonies have been completed, and that we have received unofficial confirmation through Drengar and Miss Stenton that they are willing to begin talks with us. But for now, we want to thank you for your actions in not only destroying the remnants of the despicable Bureau, she continues, but also for being a part of bringing to power a more reasonable Auroran government. You have our thanks and our admiration for your efforts, and we have placed a significant sum of money at your disposal, and it is our wish that you take time to enjoy it. So wow, that's a 1.5 million credits, so that's going to buy like one Polaris military upgrade, and we should just go and, whoops. I swear, it would not be an EV Nova episode without me mistaking the tilde key for the escape key. Ah, well. But, yeah, we'll go to the Anilka Moria system and get another outfit for our ship. They are ridiculously expensive, but that's just because they're ridiculously good. So what should we get? It's always the question. Well, we can't hold anything at the moment, so we'd have to sell something. We should definitely get more mantas. Yeah, let's top off on those. We don't need Wraitheye, we do need Polaris torpedoes, though. Probably gonna 20, I'm limited to 20, that's a bummer. Alright, that should be sufficient. Really, I want more of these. Actually, all 3 of these. But without extra mass, I can't. So let's get more mantas out here. They are perhaps one of our best features of having a scarab, is that we get the sweet manta bay. You could fit one on a dragon, but it would be a little bit of a challenge. I'm sorry, my voice is getting a little bit raspy here. Pardon me. Feeling a little bit congested lately. I hope it's not COVID, but you know, we'll see. Can still taste things, so hopefully that's not the case. I've thus far managed to avoid succumbing to the virus, and I hope to keep it that way. Alright, so hopefully we can get the next part to trigger, but it might take a little bit of doing. And for that reason, I think we should go investigate all the usual haunts here in Polaris space. Let's go see if the scientists have anything new. I think we've completely completed their little side mission, but you know, it doesn't hurt to check. It's not like we're doing anything else at the moment. So why don't we do that? Oh, hey, look at that. Although this, I think, is just a random occurrence and not one tied to this planet. Over the past few months, you've been keeping an eye on the locations of Miranda, Lyral, and Pagena, because you knew that once they got together, the day you had been dreading was fast approaching. A few weeks ago, you felt them meet, and since then, you have been observing their search of the galaxy for you. As you slowly prepare to disembark, you know they will ask you once again to face the crypt. It seems like every head in the spaceport turns to watch you leave your ship, and more than one Polaris casts a sidelong look in the direction of the small group waiting for you before deliberately looking away. You walk over and nod in greeting, but none of them wants to break the ice. "Know why we have come," states Lyral, quietly pleading, "but you cannot know the whole story. We cannot evolve past the veil unless we have the crypt talk to focus us. It is the way our mind is set up. More than that, we have no desire to leave them behind. Will you help us?" "Of course we will." When you calmly nod, you cannot help but sense the surge of pride from everyone nearby as they try to observe the goings-on. "Thank you, Ory'Hara," responds Lyral. "Of all the people in this room, I am the only one besides yourself who has felt the crypt mind, so I know the danger you are placing yourself in for us. Without you, we would be lost." He looks over at Pagena, and you sense the young scientist's discomfort rise sharply. "Our analysis from your last trip was again incomplete," mutters uncomfortably. "But we were able to pick up some residual psychic phenomena embedded into parts of the Velos, and Lyral was able to identify the patterns as being similar to those of some of the memories of the Crypt talk just before the end of the Velos War. So we want you to go to Velos with Lyral," he explains, shifting in his seat, "and then take it from there. And when you are finished," Miranda pipes up sadly, "I'll be waiting for you on Ory'Hara." Alright, so we're in full somber mode now. Everything is sad. Oh well. I'm trying to think of any of the campaigns that are like happy at the end, and yeah, I don't know. Actually, I can think of two, but I'm not gonna say which ones. You'll have to go and play the game for yourself, or watch the videos, I suppose. But yeah, they all kind of take on this sort of narrative theme where the protagonist gets alienated because they're no longer really human. So once again, here's our CryptPod welcome party. We can touch down on Velos. As soon as you entered Crypt space, you were forced to defend Lyral from constant attacks by the Crypt mind. For weeks you stay immersed in the spirit of the universe until you are assured that you have gone insane. But after the first few moments, it feels almost natural, and you can sense Crypt's rising panic as she cannot penetrate your defenses. As a part of your enormously vast perceptions, you almost unconsciously land on the surface of Velos, and observed Lyral leaving the ship for a time. You sense him cast about with his mind, looking for a psychic trace of the Crypt talk. With a small weave amongst the millions of weaves you are willing into existence to foil the Crypt mind, you draw his attention to what he is looking for. He returns to the ship, and you can sense his awe at what you have shown you can do. "I felt the word Corel," he says quietly, aware that you already know. "And that was a planet once populated by us. I suggest we go there." You nod, and you take off again. And sure enough, it's just over here. I don't think there is an available hypergate that goes to it, but there is a wormhole that goes to it. We're not going to jump around in the wormholes, obviously, but I find it amusing that the two dead Velos systems are connected by either the hypergate system or the wormholes. Oh, there's a hypergate here. I stand corrected. But it makes sense, because they are, past worlds of the Colonial Council. Before you even land, you can sense the faded remnants of the Crypt talk's psychic aura as you absent-mindedly pilot your ship down through Corel's atmosphere. From the residue they left behind, you deduce that they partially embedded their minds into the nanites in an effort to escape detection by the ravaging forces of the Colonial Council. With a sudden whiff of inspiration, you realize they actually created the Crypt in an effort to defend this world, and eventually all of what was Velos space while they waited for the spirit of the universe to awaken and return them to their natural state. Suddenly you know what has to be done, and you weave an invitation to the Crypt into your defenses against your attacks, which suddenly stop. and you can sense her focusing her intellect into the grotto where you feel the remnants of the Crypta. With a subtle inclination of your head, you tell Lyral to follow you as you head in that direction. You sense Lyral's growing wonder and Crypt's apprehension as you enter the cave. Inside you see 6 bodies, perfectly preserved in cryogenic tubes. They must move on, you tell Crypt with quiet assurance. You must find your own way. Crypt nods and walks over to the cryogenic tubes, and in a sudden whirlwind of consciousness, transfers everything of the Crypta back to their bodies before dissipating completely. You did it, exclaims Lyral, and she destroyed herself to do it. You shake your head, telling him that she just gave back to them what they had given to her, but that she remains, although it will be centuries before she relearns how to project herself so intensely again. You give him a few instructions on how to operate the cryogenic machinery before heading back to your ship. With the relief, for the first time in weeks, you dissolve your union with the universe, allowing your mind to return to its limited senses with relish. While you are immersed in the universe, you sense Miranda waiting for you on Ory'Hara, and whenever the Polaris ask for your help, you know it won't be long until you're once again immersing your consciousness in the universe. Alright, but I think that's a good place to stop the episode, so we're going to read a little blurb about Corel here, and then we're going to call it a day. There's something very odd about this planet. In every other system in what used to be Velos space, there is only rubble and radiation. It appears that the old Colonial Council must not have brought their destructive nuclear weapons here. But considering the fact that at the end of the Velos Wars, the Colonial Council was hellbent on destroying all traces of the Velos civilization, you find it a little strange that they left an entire system untouched. Even more odd is the fact that the system also happens to be a habitable planet, which you suppose would have made it a prime target for their weapons of mass destruction. And it uses the same vignette here as Wolf 359, but I guess that blurb is there for if you stumble onto this planet in another storyline and you're wondering why it looks so nice. But now we know it's because the Crypta were defending it. Alright, well thank you very much for joining me. It's good to be back after that little bit of an unplanned break, but back I am. And I think in the next episode, this is going to be it for the Polaris campaign. Afterwards, we'll probably do the Rebel, and then the Federation, and then we'll be done. And can move on to things like mods. That's going to be fun. But regardless, thank you for joining me. And no matter what you do, until next time, I hope that you have a good one.